All right, let's get our Facebook friends up in here before it's officially time to go. Spinning wheel. He's got 1 and 2. Give it a second to breathe. Typically, this is where I'll take my sip of coffee or maybe an adult beverage. Maybe I need to bring that back because that's what the Broncos are driving me to do. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. It is November 8th, Tuesday, 6:05 p.m. Running 5 minutes late. That's on me. But welcome in, guys. Tuesday, it's Building the Broncos. Carl, how you doing, buddy? It's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm good. I've been home the last couple days with a couple sick kids, and so that's always fun. The school just has a running of sicknesses that run through it, and I don't know. Having kids, you just plan on that they're going to get sick probably 3 or 4 times a year. But that's meant that I've got to stay home, get a few things done that I need to get done at home, and now get to hang out with all of you lovely people. So, Nick, good to see you back, man. Glad your travels went well and your time with friends and family, everything like that. So, but good to have you back for a Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to be back hanging out with Carl on Tuesday nights. We got Phil McLaughlin dropping the Angry React on Facebook. Phil, I hope you're doing well. And we got Chris Camden as well. If you guys are joining us on Facebook today, make sure you click the thumbs up and the like. Or if anybody's joining us, on YouTube or the like as well. Do we have another Angry React? No, still Phil. George Fox also coming in. Good to see you, George. And let's say hello to some people in the chat here. We got Dylan Von Arks coming in saying, "Sup, Broncos country." Make sure you guys hit that like button on the way in and share on all platforms. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe. Thank you so much, Dylan. We appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. Jay Valentine coming in as well, saying W. Absolutely. Hopefully that'll be a W this Sunday for the Broncos, but we'll start peeling back that onion a little bit. Feels like we need to milk it still a little bit because we're ready for the next game, but it's only Tuesday, right? We'd still be reacting to last week's game. So getting excited for that, no doubt. We also got, and I see it up top here. Scott, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe up at the top of StreamYard, I can see the likes and reacts coming in on Facebook. But we also got Mike S coming in here saying, "What's up, Broncos country?" Mike S, thought about you and Bama X this weekend. Great LSU Alabama game. It's rough for you guys. You've been at the top so much, I'm not going to tell you how to be a fan. But it's nice to see some fresh blood out there. I guess, can you call LSU fresh blood? But Alabama's not going away. So they still might make the playoffs. What do you have any thoughts on that? I talked with Scott a little bit about this, about it this morning. Any thoughts on the playoffs? I know they just released their new playoff ranking as well.
Did they? Okay. Yep. Well, I mean, Georgia obviously needs to be there at the top after taking down Tennessee. Ohio State still being undefeated. TCU, where'd they have them ranked? 4th. Okay. They've finally moved them up.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of play out. I mean, I still have my doubts of their ability to hang with an Ohio State or a Georgia or somebody like that. But, somebody's got to be there in that 4th spot. And I'd rather have them, an undefeated team, compared to a 2-loss team, even if I think Alabama is a better team.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm here for the expanded playoffs coming up here pretty soon, just because that means Iowa might get a chance to get beat by 80 by a blue blood. But you know what? We'll hang a banner just the same. It's a little different in college football. But Mike S, good to see you. Jay Kozad in the house saying, "Last year we had the Dallas game where everything looked good. Maybe this year it'll be against the Titans." Definitely possible. Yeah, we haven't really had a good vibes game all season. Every single game has either been, none of the losses have been blowouts either. Every single game has been excruciating, whether wins or losses.
Right.
And just brings me back to a couple Seahawks fans that I know out here. They say that's just, it's the Russell Wilson experience. You're going to be in every game, but you're going to be in every game. So
yeah.
I guess we'll take it. We'll see how the Broncos do against Kansas City. That'll be a barometer to the floor of that statement. But it would be great to see the Broncos go into Tennessee and beat that team up. I can't see it happening with Vrabel as their coach. I think that they are as well coached and focused of a team as there is in the entire NFL right now. But you never know, man. Matchups make fights.
I was going to say, I would say the Broncos have done really well against the Titans, even with Vrabel there.
Yeah.
They had that 16-0 win when Mariota was the quarterback and got benched during that game. And then we see, of course, Tannehill take over and they end up going to the playoffs. But like I said, we've seen the Broncos actually play this team pretty strong, and Derrick Henry not have his best games by any means against the Broncos. Now, I'm interested to see how the run defense changes now that Bradley Chubb is gone, because, as much as I do agree that they needed to make the trade, and Scott and I talked about that ad nauseum last week, because it happened that day. Man, you missed a great Tuesday.
I know.
But at the same time, that's the area that I'm mostly worried about. I think the pass rush can still be okay. I think we're seeing Evero just really do a great job of bringing pressure and knowing when to bring pressure and how to get guys in advantageous matchups and all those kind of things. But that run defense, man, he was such a big part of the success. So, and having Derrick Henry come up as your first game without him, that's going to be nerve-wracking to watch him every time he gets a carry.
Yeah, at least they haven't had an extra week to prepare for that, but it's definitely nerve-wracking, no doubt about that. And we got a super coming in here, $5 from Garth Knight, saying, "Love the show, gentlemen. We love you, Garth." Kiss. No, that was a kiss for those podcast listeners at home. Carla, you are a measured fella. Do the Broncos have any chance against the Titans? I tend to agree with Nick. What do you think? I mean, already getting ahead to Sunday, but do they have a chance?
They do. I mean, we saw this last week, the Titans against the Chiefs. Like, their run or their pass offense not been great this year. They've kind of been up and down. They're a team that plays a lot of close games as well. And I do think the Broncos, if they can really control that line of scrimmage, and then on offense, if they can kind of grow from what they did last against the Jaguars, where they finally started getting a few things worked out and figuring out what works with Russell Wilson, what doesn't work. You know, we've talked about this whole season, that this is how it was going to be, that the offense was going to grow as the year went on. I think we saw some promising steps forward. Now, does 2 weeks off make them kind of take that step back because now they haven't had contact here for a while? Or is this where, hey, we've got some things really worked out, and now we can really move forward? We've had 2 weeks to game plan. I'm not sure. So this is really a toss-up game for me of how the Broncos are going to play. I think they stand a great chance, but you know, this is that game. This is that defining moment. If you're going to get back into this playoff race, it starts right here with this one, because you got to get this tiebreaker over a team like the Titans.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And pretty crazy to see the betting the spread for this game. Do you know what it is?
Is it 7 points?
From what I'm seeing, it's 3 for the Titans, which is, I think that has a lot to do with the quarterback situation in Tennessee right now. But I mean, that essentially says this is a pick'em game on a neutral site. So I don't know. Vegas wasn't built like it is today, going broke on bad bets. So maybe something to watch there. Maybe they know something that we don't know. We got William coming in here talking about stuff we don't know. No, I feel bad for Cushionberry, obviously, but at the end of the day, it's not a huge blow to us because he wasn't playing good. And Mike S coming in saying Glasgow is better by far. And also want to say hello to Paul real quick. Hello, OGs. Glad to be here. Glad to have you here, Paul. And one time IR move on, I feel, is a positive. I feel really bad for Cushionberry. Will think about him writhing in pain for a bit. That was just, I mean, seeing him kind of on his back turtling and just in pain. It sucks. The reality is the Broncos offense seemed to play better when Glasgow went in there at center. Cushionberry had been struggling, and now Cushionberry is going to be out for a little bit longer. The Broncos placed him on injured reserve this week. He's eligible to return in 5 weeks. Is it so 4 weeks on, and the 5th week, I think he can come back week 14,
right,
if I recall correctly. Maybe it's week 15, but going to be out for a bit. Maybe it's the last time you see Cushionberry starting at center this season because Glasgow takes it and runs with it. So any thoughts on the news on either aspect, Glasgow going forward or Cushionberry going on? What does this mean?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel bad anytime a player gets hurt and possibly loses their starting job, and this might be the end of his time in Denver. Is the reality? You know, like the commenter said, he hasn't been playing that great. He's been one of the weak links of this offense, and getting pushed back into the quarterback on passing downs, run downs, not getting to that second level, not getting where he needs to be. A lot of times, a lot of the run plays have been broken up because he's getting pushed back into the backfield, and running backs have to make a cut 3 or 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And so I think this is probably actually going to help the offense. I think Glasgow, I went back and watched that that second half of the game. He looked good. Like he knew obviously he knows what he's doing. He's a veteran. I loved, when a guy was straight up on him, zero tech, did great. Held his own, gave a nice little pocket for Russ Wilson to step up into. I think of the pass to KJ Hamler, that deep one in the fourth quarter. That was because he had a pocket to step into. Like that's where he can start making those big throws down the field. There's some other ones where they were playing the one tech position and they're trying to shoot the gap. He's like, all right, I'll let you shoot the gap. I'm just going to push you to the side. Boom. Got a great pocket to step into. And so those kind of things, like just you can see Russell Wilson could actually see over the middle of the field. He was hitting a lot of passes in that area that he wasn't earlier in the season. So I definitely like it. But I wanted to get to Phil's comment here saying, evening, Nick, Carl, and Deacon Scott. Been angry all season. Laugh out loud. I really want a happy face, but God, these guys are not giving much more than I have seen in the last 6 years. Hashtag go Broncos. Hashtag MHH for life. At least Iowa won. There you go. Yes,
Beat
they
up on
had
Purdue.
themselves a decent game there. But yeah, it is. It's hard to smile right now when, again, those expectations heading into the season. Now you've gotten yourself, 2 overtime losses. You think about having those wins, and now you're 5-3 heading into the second half stretch. You feel pretty darn good about this team and how they could be going. But you lost those games. You really have no wiggle room for what it's going to take to make the playoffs. I mean, I think 10-7 is going to be the 7th place spot in the AFC.
Certainly possible. If that's the case, Broncos have to finish 7-2 down the stretch. Don't think it's happening. So yeah. I think 6-3 you have a shot. 7-2 I do not feel good about, especially with how tough the schedule is in the back half. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. At least we have a first-round pick to look forward to. Jamie coming in saying, good evening, Broncos Familia. Golden Corral did not make any profit off me today. Oh, boy. Well, Jamie. Jamie coming in from the bathroom. Good to see you, Jamie. Congrats to you.
Got those meat sweats.
Oh, God. Nathan coming in saying, this one's actually a clear upgrade, and also laughing at Jamie there. Monkey Bites coming in from Kansas. You're close out there to Carl. So hello to you. Ernie Mays in the house. Good to see you. Saying hello, Nick and Carl. Go Broncos. And Colin Wood in the house, too, saying we'll get to see what Hackett has been working on these last 2 weeks to kickstart this offense. Any thoughts on what that might be against again, this is a really well-coached Titans team. You look at the roster, the depth chart. This is not a team that is full of stars on the defensive side of the ball, but man, they maximize these guys. It really does remind me of the old Patriots, where it's like, you have 2 or 3 pillars and you have a bunch of fillers around them, but those guys do their job. They put them in good positions. They play hard. So any thoughts about what Hackett could have for this offense kickstarting after the bye week?
Yeah, I think I'm hoping you see a little bit more of trying to get Russell Wilson on the move, try to get the ball out of his hand early in the game, get some of those RPOs that we saw a couple times in this last game. There's one where he didn't make the right call. I can't remember who put it on Twitter, but they were showing it was a handoff to Gordon, and I think it went for like 5 yards. So, I mean, a nice pickup. But Jerry Jeudy was on the side, just wide open, had about 2 or 3 blockers in front of him. Would have been a great play if the pass had been hit. And so dialing up those plays, showing Russell Wilson, hey, look, this is an opportunity we have to turn a quick pass into a really big gain, get it into your playmakers' hands and see what can happen there. So I think we'll see a little bit more of that, maybe a little bit more horizontal game, and try to see if we can get it into playmakers and just see if we can get something going. You're right. The problem is the Titans team, very well coached. They're going to tackle. They're going to make those kind of plays. They're not going to be out of position. So you're going to have to try to mix and match on some of those. But and then the defense, man, they're just going to have to play lights out again, because it's going to be another close game. It's not going to, as much as we'd love for it to be that Dallas game, I think if the Broncos win, it's probably by about 4 points or less.
Yeah. Cardiac Broncos, but that's okay. We'll take that. Big thing for me in this game is that the Broncos cannot afford to commit penalties, because you're going to be already, I think, in a very tough situation trying to be in favorable positions on second and third down, because this Titans run defense is incredible. Talked about him a little bit this morning, and Carl can attest to this, Scott. I was somewhat obsessed with Jeffrey Simmons. I had a Jeffrey Simmons poster. No, not that much, but I thought, yeah, I mean, he was incredible at Mississippi State. Absolutely loved him. Wanted the Broncos to take him at, what were they picking at that draft? 10, I think. And then he tore his ACL. Either way, Broncos trade down from that pick. They don't get to take him. He goes 1 pick before the Broncos in that draft. He goes 19 to the Titans. Broncos take Noah Fant at 20. Did break my heart a little bit, but what can you do? So Jeffrey Simmons, probably. Here's a question for you. Is Jeffrey Simmons the most underrated superstar in football right now? Or maybe on the defense? I mean, offensive line, of course, but like Jeffrey Simmons we talked about a few pillars on the defense they can build around. He's that dude. There's only one interior defensive lineman I'd take over him right now, and that is Aaron Donald. But he's right up there against him. He's a run defense unto himself. He's massive. He can play across multiple techniques across the defensive line. For the second best interior defensive lineman right now, it's either him or Quinnen Williams. I don't think there's a argument for anybody else.
Right. No, I'm with you there. He has been playing, like I said, lights out, top 3 or 4 player at his position. And like I said, it probably number 2, if we really think about it. And the fact that he's not getting talked about as much as he should be, I mean, I think of like Chris Jones is still getting talked about a lot, and he's still a good player, but you're starting to see some of the downhill trend that he's taken. And, Quentin Williams being that top 5 pick. So everybody is, of course, going to be talking about him. Yeah, number 3 overall. And so, unfortunately, he's kind of just gotten pushed to the side, and the Titans all together, they keep getting pushed to the side. They were the number 1 seed in the AFC last year, and like nobody's really still taking them serious. I myself included. I was like, yeah, this is a team that's not making the playoffs. And yet here they are. They're still with a winning record. Like I said, they were probably one of the best coach teams in football. And so getting guys like him that can get in there and make those kind of plays just one-on-one, this is going to be that great game for like a Graham Glasgow to really prove, hey, you've earned this spot. Like you can move forward as the center. If he can really handle Jeffrey Simmons up in the middle and the 2 guards as well, and Reisner and Miners, this is going to be one of their toughest matchups for the rest of the season. And if they can handle this, get a little bit of push, Broncos, like I said, stand a really good chance of winning this game. But that's a tough task right there.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for all these running backs and the offensive line. They're going to have to try to figure something out, but this is not just Jeffrey Simmons here. They also play, it's a very opposite style of defense from the Broncos as far as how the front looks. Because the Broncos, you saw them trade away Bradley Chubb. Now all their edge rushers are like those tweener-ish hybrid kind of players, linebacker / edge rusher, not the Titans. They like to run more of a pocket crunching kind of front, very similar to what the Buffalo Bills do. Honestly, that's kind of, I think, the closest stylistic team, where they have like Mario Edwards and DeMarco Autry, who are pushing 300 pounds playing the edge rusher spot, where the Broncos are playing guys who are 240. It's like night and day difference what they're doing up front there. They do want to play a lot of man coverage, so that's something to watch for here. It does seem like a Jerry Jeudy watch kind of game if they do stick with that. I would not be shocked if Mike Vrabel switches it up, because the Broncos have been bad against zone defense this season. Russell Wilson's actually been pretty darn good against man coverage, but zone has been not good, especially a cover 2 and cover 4. So we'll see what happens here. We'll continue to break down this game, though. Want to get back to Cushionberry and the moves the Broncos made today. Garth Knight coming in $5 saying, here's one thing that can't happen. If the Broncos win, they can't have Melvin Gordon taking carries with no heart. I don't want to fumble runs. Yeah, I mean, you'd think he'd be your most talented running back, but he's just not doing very well right now. I saw some data the other day about his yards earned versus yards expected, and he's actually left a lot on the field. His EPA per run is really low. Now, granted, a lot of that has to do with the fumbles, but he's been disappointing, and we'll see what happens for the Broncos run game going forward. He brought in Chase Edmonds. He's a home run threat, but I think it's going to be more of the Latavius Murray show. The guy who I'm really disappointed that got hurt is Mike Boone. He was looking really good in that Jets game. I think he might have had an opportunity to be your best back on this team and offer some explosiveness. The Broncos have only had 7 runs this season of over 15 yards, which is not great. And I think half of those came from Javonte Williams. But we'll see. Broncos got to figure it out. Miguel Santasteven coming in here over on Facebook. Thank you so much, Miguel, for the support. We always are good to see you, and a great picture of you and your daughter there celebrating the Broncos, saying, do you think the Broncos are going to simplify the offense to get in a better rhythm? Any thoughts on this, Carl? Simplifying the offense.
Well, you saw it in the last game. They tried to simplify a few things. And the one thing I will criticize with that is I think Russell Wilson kind of locked in on some guys of, okay, here's your 1 or 2 reads, and I'm going to make this pass. And like the very first pass of the game, throwing it to Sutton, almost gets picked off. Like he had made that decision before the play had even began. This is where I'm going with the football. And sometimes when you simplify and you're kind of going, okay, this is where we really want to go, get those easy passes. Well, teams are kind of sitting on those early on. And they're kind of thinking that's what you want to do because you want to get yourself into a rhythm. And so I do agree. I think there's some things that they can simplify to make it especially easier for the receivers because they've got so many option routes depending on the coverage. Sometimes it is just better to simplify for them so they can run fast and not be thinking so much. I mean, we've even seen Cortland Sutton now starting to drop some passes. I think he's just thinking too much on the field. I got to make a play. I got to do something here. And, just help these guys to relax, get them into that rhythm, get some, as much as I say, don't attempt those easier passes. Sometimes that's exactly what you got to do. Just get some guys, some targets and just try to get that first down. That's been the Broncos' biggest struggle to really get going in games, get that first down. It takes them about 2 or 3 drives before they finally get it. And so I just want to see him have 3 great plays designed right off the bat so we can get that first down.
I love the play design. I love them maybe trying to get Cortland Sutton involved early. If he's not open, don't throw him the damn ball, though. We don't need a almost pick 6 leading off the game like we saw against the Jags, and the Broncos kind of felt like they, pooped themselves a little bit from there and took them a little bit to get their bearings after that, on top of all the penalties. But David McElrath coming in saying, good evening, Broncos country. Nick, Carl, and Scott just watched Broncos for breakfast. Well, you're seeing a lot of me, so hopefully it's not too much. Don't OD on Nick. That's not no way to live life. Greg Smith coming in saying, good evening, Broncos country. Good to see you, Greg. We got Jay Wassow 989 saying, will Luke Wattenberg be moved to the 53-man roster this Sunday? Any insight on this? Any thoughts on this?
I thought he was already on the 53-man roster.
The active.
Oh, the active roster. Yes, he will be. And he was last week too.
Yeah.
Because I think he got a couple snaps last week, if I remember right, or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. You will expect him there. I teed this one up because Hackett mentioned that Wattenberg has been getting more and more snaps. You have to have a contingency plan in case, knock on wood, Glasgow goes out. So Wattenberg's next in line. He will definitely be a part of the address or part of the formula going forward. Hopefully we don't see him, though, because that probably means something went wrong. BD Dutton coming in saying, hey, Nick, Carl, and Dylan, and Scott. Glad to hear we got plenty of time with Graham Glasgow at center. MHH for life. Yeah. Carl, here's a question for you. So bringing it back to Graham Glasgow here. What does he have to do over this stretch of games here to keep the spot once Lloyd Cushionberry is healthy this season?
Honestly,
does he have to do much?
It's not that much. It's be competent. Yeah. He could be an average center, and I think you still keep him there because
average would be amazing.
I really would. And this last game, like I said, I went back and just watched him and just focused on him. And I thought he had probably the best work we've seen from the center position in the last 2 years. And because Cushionberry's just been that bad, he's had maybe 1 or 2 games where you're like, oh yeah, Cushionberry, he was a part of what helped the team win. Most of the time, he's part of the reason that they're losing. And it's been very frustrating to watch the Broncos put him out there time and time again when you have a veteran like Glasgow sitting on the bench that has played center before, played it at a decent level, actually, when he was in Detroit. Yeah. And, you've got some other options. Heck, Dalton Reisner played center in college and was actually pretty good at it when he played center. Not saying I would move him there, but I'm just find something else. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting some different results. He's just going to keep messing up. And I hate talking about a player like this, but it's the reality of what the Broncos have had. They've been held back in part because Cushionberry just can't hold his own on the field, both in pass and run protection.
Yeah. And part of that, I think some of the onus needs to fall on Russell Wilson as well, specifically for the pass. We saw that game against the Chargers. You need your center or your quarterback to be able to call out the A-gap blitz when the guy's standing up over the A-gap, move some things around. I don't know if you caught the Pete Carroll jab on Russell Wilson this week, talking about the wristband and calling in plays and getting times to adjust at the line of scrimmage because he got the plays out quicker and knew what he was doing. Didn't directly say Russell Wilson, but it was definitely a jab at him. But given the Broncos' struggles against the blitz and the Chargers game really stands out to me and how hard they've been getting the plays lined up and at the line of scrimmage in time, giving yourself another 5-10 seconds there could be the adjustment that you need for a center who's struggling and a quarterback who should be playing at a cerebral level. So just something to watch going forward there. Kind of interesting to hear Pete Carroll say that. And it's unfortunate, but it seems like more and more that Pete Carroll was probably more right than we like to give him credit to. Now, I'm not saying he's 100% right, but the headbutting there, so far Pete Carroll's looked good and Russell Wilson has not. So we're far from right at the end of the story, but worth monitoring. Ryan Slavic coming in saying, good evening, Nick, Carl, and Broncos country. Hope we get the run game going finally. Also get Dulcich, KJ, and Sutton especially way more involved in this game. The thing about this is you want them to run the ball more and pass the ball more, and there's only so many possessions that you have, especially against a grinded down team like the Titans. This is going to be a game where each possession matters a lot. It's going to be a game where special teams and field position matter a lot. One thing I will say, though, this is, like I mentioned earlier, this is not the game where you should have expectations for the run game. If the Broncos can be at all efficient, like 3.5 yards per carry efficient on the ground, that's going to be incredible. I have the data here. Titans this year so far in rush EPA per play. Where do you think they rank, Carl?
Fourth?
Third.
Okay.
Third in rush EPA per play. So how about rush success rate? So success rate is picking up. If you get on first down, it's 4 yards. Second down, it's pretty much having so many yards left. On third or fourth down, it's getting the first down. So rush success rate. Where do you think they rank?
Eighth.
First.
Okay.
Football Outsiders DVOA. Where is their run defense DVOA ranked?
Fifth.
First.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
So you are playing a elite run defense in this game, and the Broncos run game. Maybe this will finally be the game that kicks the Broncos run blocking analytics down a peg, because I don't even know what's going on there. But either way, Ryan, good to see you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming in and leaving some comments. We got a few more people in here. Want to talk about this one. So 70. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Scott. You can do that one first. We'll come back to you, 78 Leadhead. Naj coming in, $20. Don't want to forget our super chat saying, with sky high expectations, I feel the team hasn't handled the pressure well. Now, with the expectations crushed, this team should play faster and carefree, I think. They really have nothing to lose, so it's time to cut loose. Yeah, go out there and have fun. It just does seem like there's still a little bit of... I don't know. I'll let you... What do you think here, Carl? I need to think about my thoughts on this one. How I can word it.
I would say the team has just had so much disconnect. Like you're seeing like coaching have their problems, where some of the play calls you're going, what are you doing? Like, this is not what you would call on a 3rd and 3 kind of play. The penalties, another thing that just, you could say that that's pressure that they haven't handled well. But I think, again, that comes back to some coaching where they just did not emphasize this kind of stuff in training camp. They kept it very loose. And it was kind of nice going from Vic Fangio that was like, work all the time, no smiles, no music, all those kind of things. But they were one of the least penalized teams in football. Like they were very disciplined. So this is what happens when you go this other direction, where you're getting some really stupid penalties that cost you big time. I was thinking of Justin Simmons, like he thankfully redeemed himself, but he had a couple of really stupid penalties on the Jaguars drive that almost pretty much put the game out of commission. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, he came up with the big interception, but again, some of that just, I get it. Football, you got to do some of the talking, and I wish they wouldn't do those stupid penalties of the taunting and all that, because they're just grown men having fun on the field and whatever. But it's still part of the game. You got to know it. And especially if you're one of the captains like Justin Simmons. And so, again, I think some of the coaching has really been messed up. Players-wise, I don't think some of the guys have been held accountable as much as they should be. And so you've let a lot of guys go out there that continue just to mess up. And you've just kind of, it's not favoritism, but it's just kind of I don't want to upset anybody, so I'm just going to let them keep playing. And you just, in the NFL, you got to hold people accountable. There's those times you just got to have that big meeting where we say, okay, this is not okay. We're not good with this. You do this, you're gone. You're out of here.
I agree with you on that. You need the person who can come in and say that. But right now, who is that person? Who is the person in this locker room that you can, like, when he talks, everybody listens? I mean, you'd like to think it's Russell Wilson, but it does seem like he's insulated compared to a lot of the guys in the locker room. And Nathaniel Hackett, I mean, he's up there, cracking jokes and talking about Tugalicious or whatever, touchdowns delicious, whatever the hell that is. So right now, like, who's the person when, like, things are tough, and things are tough right now in Broncos country, for at least as far as the playoffs goes. Who are you, battling with? Who are you in the foxhole with, in the trenches with? Like, that just doesn't seem like this team has that right now. That being said, it would have been so easy for them to lie down and die versus the Jags when things are really ugly in that first half. Yeah. And when the Jags are driving down the field, Justin Simmons, one of your guys that needs to step up, did step up, makes a play. Maybe it's a little bit too little too late, but could be season saving. So we're going to find a lot about the mental aspect of this team and how they come out and fight in this game, because 3-5 is a bad spot to be, but it's not over till it's over.
Right.
RD coming in here with the Canadian dollar saying, how do coaches keep Cushion all this time? Can you not see he's a bottom 2 center in the league? I just don't understand how an injury was needed to change. My understanding is, and you can call this pure hearsay if you want, but it sounded like Russell Wilson was a stronger advocate for Cushionberry being in there instead of Glasgow, due to Cushionberry being 6'3", 6'2", and Glasgow being 6'6". Made a difference Russ played behind a 6'6" center in Ethan Pokasic, who's having a great season, by the way. And guess he didn't enjoy that as much. But something Scott has said many times, which I think rings true. I don't care if he's 6'10" or 6'2". If he's getting driven back or the guys are getting past him on every single play, it doesn't matter. I take the 6'6" guy who can actually anchor at the point of attack and also can pick up a blitz or deal with different guys showing and react to it, which Cushionberry has not done so far this season.
Right. Yeah. 6'6" looks a lot shorter when they're like 5 feet away from you compared to 6'2" that's 2 inches away from your face.
Yeah.
So, that's been the thing. And yeah, maybe the coaches should have, again, this is where who's the grown up in the room that says, we got to take care of this. Like, this is not okay. That can go to a Cushionberry and say, we're giving you one more chance, live up to it, or you're out of here. And we just haven't seen that voice. You can get after Vic Fangio as much as you want. He wasn't there to make friends. He was there to win games. Now, he didn't win a lot of games, but like I said, he's going to hold people accountable to what they're doing. And
Carl, I'm so afraid to even say this. What would the Broncos record be if Vic Fangio was the head coach right now?
I'm not going to go crazy. I'll say 4-4.
4-4. Okay. I was thinking 4-4, maybe 5-3, just because of how many undisciplined situations the Broncos have put themselves in. Wouldn't be having as much fun in the locker room, but they're not having much fun right now. We'll see how it turns around. 78 lead head coming in saying, I think Greg Dulcich is the truth. He's the one prospect that I somehow just knew would be a guy. He's proven me right thus far. Very early in his career, played 3 games so far in the NFL. He's been great. He's blown by my expectations, even just through 3 games that for what I think he'd have this entire season, given how much time he missed, given the historical norms for a tight end coming into the league typically takes 2 to 3 years. He does have work to do, but as far as, then something to bring it back to an earlier point, as far as unlocking teams playing zone against Denver, that combo, the way they're playing off Greg Dulcich and KJ Hamler together, I think can be an answer to that. At least it looked like it could be there in the Jags game. Again, very small sample size, but hopefully something there you can work on.
Yeah, I've loved seeing Greg Dulcich out there. He's, like I said, he's brought a whole new element to this offense. Mm-hmm. Having that tight end, like you said, that can be that kind of zone buster that can get into that middle zone area and make them have to respect it. That they can't just go too deep with KJ Hamler every single time and have that linebacker that can cover a tight end. They can't keep up with Dulcich. Yeah. He's too big, too strong, too fast. And so it's a new element to this offense. And do you know where he ranks among rookie tight ends for yards?
Probably first, because none of them are doing diddly.
I
think Kate Otten just had a good game, but I think I saw a stat, which a lot of Broncos fans in the chat wanted this guy every single week. I won't let you forget, but Trey McBride, I think, has actually cost the Cardinals offense more yards than gained. I think due to penalties. He has more penalty yardage than receiving yards so far this season. So Dulcich, at least that was how it was a week ago. Yeah. So Dulcich has been great, been awesome, still has plenty to work on. You can see when he's out there running, he could definitely put on some mass in his base, work on blocking technique as well, but he's a darn good player. I'm excited to see what he can do in Denver going forward, and a great job. Round of applause, George Paton, finding a very good player at a non-premium position day 2 in the draft. Maybe we should take some notes on that one.
Yeah. And, did I get that wrong? I'm sorry, Scott. Kate Otten, number 1, number 2.
Kate Otten just had a big game this last week. So,
okay. When I saw the stat, I thought I thought Dulcich was number 1. I think it was before this last week all happened.
And Isaiah Likely had a big 80-yard reception or something for the Ravens last night. So that makes sense.
Okay. But there we go. So my stat is a little late. I'm sorry, guys.
Yards per game.
Still,
for a rookie.
Yes, per game, he is way up there.
Killing it. Oh,
and it's just, like I said, it's been a great element to add to this offense. And man, just the fact that we were talking, if he adds anything to this offense this year because of his injuries and missing so much time, it'd just be a little bit of icing on the cake. But man, this guy, he's changed this offense. He's given it that little bit of life. He's given it that big playability beyond KJ Hamler. And so now you kind of hope, okay, teams are having to watch that. Can it open things up for Sutton and Judy in other areas where they're starting to say, okay, we got to stop this side that has that great, layers. Dulcich at the middle area, KJ Hamler going deep, usually have a running back coming out of the backfield to kind of take the underneath linebacker. And now this other side, can we get that to start opening up and start getting some backside plays going? There's so many things that can build off this. That's what you really want to do. But the problem was the Broncos had nothing working, so they couldn't build off anything to start the season. But like I said, maybe there's something going on. I'm cautiously optimistic is where I'm at right now with this team.
Yeah, 100%. Kevin Gray coming in here saying, "Evening, Nick and Carl. Scott came in late, going back to the beginning and listen to Broncos Country." Well, hello to Kevin in the future. It's 5:39 where I'm at right now. What time is it where you are? But thanks for coming in, Kevin. Garth Knight coming in again as well. Scott Kennedy, if someone asked me who Kate Otten was prior to the stream, I would have guessed a defensive lineman for the Buffalo Sabres. You didn't listen to enough draft content. Big Kate Otten fan over here. University of Washington, good player, battled with injuries, but really supremely talented player. Played, got about a mile and a half that way from where I'm at right now. But no, good player. I think the Buccaneers took him one of the very first picks in the 4th round, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe one of the last picks of the 3rd round. I can't remember exactly. But solid player. And I also see some comments in here. The Broncos would be worse with Vic Fangio. We're talking counterfactual, so it's your opinion. So you have a right to it just like I have mine, and just as educated as mine is too. So maybe more educated than mine, but we'll see. So back to the offensive line here. We have a little bit of, I guess, certainty or something settled here going forward with Floyd Cushionberry officially going on the IR. One thing that kind of annoys me about Cushionberry, the timing of this, is you've had him injured for 2 weeks now, right? Whatever. You could have had an extra roster spot or playing that waiver wire a week earlier. Now he's on the IR for 4 weeks, can be longer than that, depending on when they activate him. Don't know why they didn't do it earlier, but offensive line coming together. What do you expect the offensive line to look like for this Titans game? Who's the starters from left to right tackle?
Oh, man. So that left tackle spot, I guess Calvin Anderson probably gets the start again. He had himself a pretty decent game against the Jaguars, I'd say. He really held his own, one of his better games. Of course, left guard, you got Dalton Reisner. Center, Graham Glasgow. Right guard, Miners. Right tackle, Turner. And I think probably moving forward, that's going to be your unit until somebody gets hurt. I really did like Fleming before he went down with injury. I thought he was actually looking like maybe the best offensive lineman the Broncos had so far this year. But, this unit, like I said, they had probably one of their better games this last week. Miners struggled a little bit. Reisner struggled a little bit early on. But once they started getting going in that second half, like I said, that's the best we've seen them all year, in my opinion.
Yeah. And we had a quote about a guy that I think hopefully you'll see the Broncos' game. If you want to get the run game going, you probably do need this player out there. Cam Fleming was asked about, Nathaniel Hackett was asked about Cam Fleming and said that he's ahead of schedule and there's a chance that he could suit up this week. He obviously went down week 7 versus the Jets. So hopefully he will be back. Honest to God, this is maybe a hot take here. I think he was your Broncos' best offensive lineman so far this season. Quinn Miners is probably the best, but he missed too much time to qualify. 5-6 games? So Cam Fleming was right up there. That's an statement on the offensive line in general, saying Cam Fleming's been your best offensive lineman, but definitely could use him out there. I know that Calvin Anderson had a good game against the Jags, but overall, the sample size, I'd say, leans towards Cam Fleming for me, especially if you have any chance of establishing the run game this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. If you really want to emphasize the run game and Cam Fleming has a chance to be healthy, then I'm putting him there at that left tackle spot. If he's not 100% and you really think, okay, run game's probably going to be stopped, we really got to beat him through the pass, Calvin Anderson probably gets the start for me. And like I said, I'm big on trying to build that chemistry, and these guys started this last game together. So I just want to, I guess Graham Glasgow didn't start it, but they finished the game together. Maybe let's see, can this group work? Fleming, you could always plug him in. If Anderson's struggling, and that's what they did a couple games ago. Anderson was really struggling. They said, all right, get out of here. We can't have you in here. And so that's one area that I guess the Broncos aren't afraid to bench him. That's one player they're not afraid to go ahead and say, this is done.
And I guess Scott didn't get this reference here. This one made me really laugh. I'm a big Lord of the Rings nerd. So he says Rohan will answer against the Titans. I don't think Scott's probably watched or read Lord of the Rings, but that one made me laugh. So I had to flash it out there. I don't know why, but we appreciate that comment there. Okay, bringing it back to Glasgow here. Obviously, talking about the offensive line being better with him there, the protection, the run game, et cetera, et cetera. Are there any detriments moving from Glasgow to Cushionberry that you think the Broncos offense might have to tweak a little bit to match the skill sets of going from Cushionberry to Glasgow?
I really can't think of anything negative compared to what Cushionberry was bringing to the table, because there wasn't really a good element of Cushionberry's game.
Yeah.
Maybe the timing of some things that Cushionberry had that timing down with Russell Wilson really well. You saw, I think, one time where everybody else moved except for Graham Glasgow. He forgot to snap the ball, or I don't know what all happened. And you see Dalton Reisner, of all people, like yelling at him, being like, "Oh, why didn't you snap the ball?" And I'm like, "Why don't you learn how to block?" And that was my thought. But I don't know. It always irritates me when somebody gets mad at another player when they haven't done great at their job either. Yeah. So you really have no room to talk until you start doing good. Sit down. I remember, I think it's 2016. One of the offensive linemen,
Russell Okung.
Okung tried to stand up, and Talib said, "Shut up and sit down." Like, that was one of their locker rooms. Like, you have no room to talk. Your offense struggles. The defense is carrying this team. Just don't talk. And that's how I feel about Reisner right now.
And we got Naj coming in, $9.99, saying, I think Hackett has had a disastrous start to his career as a head coach. His career started a while ago, and he's done good enough to get up to head coach. But he must show improvement on third down with penalties and better game planning. Having 4 to 7 3-and-outs a game is soul-crushing. The Broncos have been terrible there. Broncos have been bad on first down. They've been bad on third down. So definitely got to improve. I think Hackett does deserve a lot of the blame, but the guy right now who's probably the biggest issue on this team has probably been Russell Wilson against expectation. He's still much better than Brett Rippon. He's better than what the Broncos have had at quarterback for a while, but you paid for a top 10 quarterback, and right now you're getting top 18-ish. So that's
you're being kind.
That's the biggest issue, but they gotta figure it out. Coming back to the Cushionberry versus Glasgow conversation, Cushionberry's never been a great athlete. He can move much better than Glasgow can at this point. Glasgow is longer, wider, but if you ask him to move in space, it's not happening. So I think you probably are taking away specifically the outside zone game with Glasgow to an extent, because you asking him to double team and then peel off to the second level. Don't think it's really happening there. I also think there's a little bit of loss there in the screen game again, because the center is one of the positions that has to move a lot in those spots. You have to be able to snap and then get out there. I've been biased, or I guess blessed for years, getting to watch Tyler Linderbaum at Iowa do that, which is a totally different animal than what Glasgow. But I think that's probably the biggest setback you're going to have here is you lose a little bit of movement skills going from Cushionberry to Glasgow. Cushionberry is like a D+ level mover for a center, but Glasgow right now is probably enough for movement skills.
So my one pushback against that is, I agree, Cushionberry is a better athlete, but a lot of times he's taking such horrible angles that he's not actually getting to the outside where he needs to be and actually making the block. Like, there's been a lot of outside zone runs that have been blown up because Cushionberry was the one guy that missed his block. Yeah. He didn't get out there in time, or he took a horrible angle. That's usually what he does.
Yeah.
He's like running to where the linebacker's at while the linebacker's already moving down the line. It's like, dude, no, you need to be moving where you think he's going to be. You can always cut back and start working your way back. You can't start out this angle and start turning. That guy's more athletic than you. I'm sorry. It's not going to work well for you. So that's my one pushback against that is I think like Glasgow, while he's not as great of an athlete, could be in a better position to actually get there because he knows what angle he needs to take.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see. Also, Garth hurt my feelings saying, don't bother with Lord of the Rings. It's Star Wars for Dungeons and Dragons lovers. Yeah, you probably think Game of Thrones is the same. But I enjoyed both of those. Star Wars is good too. I think I prefer the Lord of the Rings and the Game of Thrones more than Star Wars, but to each their own. Also, never watched Star Trek. Never got into that. Probably a generational thing. Don't care. I know that Captain Kirk is supposed to be from Iowa. Good for him. Other than that, I don't know. But yeah, so Scott's getting here. Besides, Lord of the Rings was before Star Wars. Absolutely, it was Tolkien. Very interesting times out there. But So this is your last chance, I guess, Carl, your last chance. This sounds ominous. Before this Titans game, is there anything that you want to talk about in regards to the Titans? We just saw them on Sunday Night Football. Malik Willis, the offensive line. I mean, is there any aspects of this game that you really think is worth digesting or talking a little bit about?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about so we've seen KJ Hamler start making more plays. Obviously, Greg Dulcich starting to make a few more plays. What do you think has happened to Cortland Sutton? Because those first few games, like he was the main guy. I mean, just making every kind of catch out there, pretty much was the offense. And now all of a sudden he's really disappeared and he's just almost a non-factor. What has happened there, in your opinion?
We need a sports psychologist here. I don't know what the hell is going on with Cortland Sutton. Now, part of this is, and I heard a stat the other day that so far this season, the Broncos are the number 2 offense in football. Hey, we're ranked high in something in terms of offensive or defensive pass interference yards. So the Broncos have gained the second most yards due to opponents doing pass interference, which was a big part of Cortland Sutton in the first 3 weeks of the season, if I recall correctly. I think the biggest things is teams have started to go even further, taking away the deep ball and anything to Cortland Sutton, and that has reduced a lot of where he's made his hay. He's an above the rim player, a long strider, and can make some plays down the field despite not being, a 4.40 kind of guy. So I think that's a big aspect of it. I really think they need to get him out there and get him hit early. I don't know what that means. Maybe a little bubble screen or something like that. I feel like he needs to get popped early a little bit. Obviously don't get him crushed, but get it going, because right now it's the lack of physicality from him that's driving me nuts. I'll tell you, if I was his coach for the Jags game where he missed that screen block again, I am in his ear when he comes back to the sideline. It's going to be one of those things where he's coming to the sideline and he feels my eyes on him because he knows when he comes over there, we're going to have a talking. But wouldn't be cussing at it or anything, but like what the actual heck is going on here.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's going on with Sutton. He's kind of disappeared some. You think he'd also be somewhat of the answer against zone, some of those tough catches and whatnot, firing it in there, but he's kind of shriveled up here these last few weeks. Hopefully they can get it going for him. But it definitely seems like there's something going on there right now because he's just not playing as well.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you've seen him miss some of the easy catches too. Like he's not in it. And you're right. Maybe he is one of those guys, get him that early catch, the easy catch, the screen pass or whatever, get him popped, get him into the mindset of the game. I remember DT was kind of that way, that he just kind of needed that first catch. If he could get that, he could really go out there and have himself a great game. But if you didn't get him involved early on, it seemed like he just kind of fell off for the rest of the game. Like it was either he has a great game because he got involved early, or there's just no DT.
Yeah.
And I love DT, but that was one of my biggest hangups against him was he just seemed to disappear if he wasn't part of the early game plan. And so I think Sutton's does better of staying within a game than that. But like I said, these last few weeks, it just seems like there's something missing there. I don't know if it's just the frustration of the offense and how it's all been going and how things have not been clicking. But we got Todd coming in here with his thoughts. 2 theories on Sutton from the fan was that one reason for the slump is him getting paid and he gave up. Second was that he is still hurt and never recovered. I kind of disagree with both. I mean,
yeah, I hate both of these.
Yeah. To me, like he started out strong and that was right after he got paid. So that wasn't really a problem. And I don't think his old injury is bothering him. Maybe he has a new injury. Maybe there's something going on there that we don't quite know about. But I don't think it's his knee. I think we've seen him get closer to what he was pre-injury. And I think he's looked much more like he did, in my opinion, getting himself open and things like that. But that's why, yeah, I wouldn't agree with either of these.
I think that the second one maybe has more credence than the first one, but I think it's more mental than anything. I think it's still probably trusting some things there, but I think right now he's just in a funk. I don't know what's going on with him. Hopefully he can figure it out some, but that's, unless you are one of those like top 5 or 8 wide receivers in football, you're going to have those ebbs and flows week to week, game to game. And if your offensive line is struggling to pass protect, if your scheme isn't working very well, if your quarterback's struggling, your output is not going to be as good either. And you might look frustrated out there, but there's been plays on the field that he's left. Hopefully the week away has helped him clear his head so he can come back out healthy, because the Broncos are going to need him to play like he looked like the first 3 games rather than what we saw the last 3 games. And yeah, Scott coming in here. Sutton has 46 targets in the first 5 games, 16 in the last 3. It's roughly a 50% drop. Yeah, he's dropped the lot of the stats too. So he's just gonna have to play better. No doubt about it. Part of it is before the Broncos pass game distribution was almost like 50% Sutton and then 50% everybody else. I do like that they're spreading the level a little bit more. Hamler getting healthy, Dulcich emerging. Jerry Jeudy's been one of the best wide receivers in football against man coverage, but you do hope that Sutton can get more involved. It's just maybe he's not that true number 1 and more complimentary. And in that case, these other aspects that are surrounding him are going to be extremely impactful to his week-to-week output.
Yeah, for sure. So I keep thinking of him for this upcoming game, that if the Broncos are going to win this one, I think he has to have himself a pretty big game. I think he has to take that next step and become more like he was those first few weeks of making the tough catches, getting the good yards for the Broncos, being that trusted source for Russell Wilson. Because, I mean, we already talked about like Jeffrey Simmons and his ability to get pressure up there the middle. And there's going to be a couple throws where Russell Wilson's going to have a guy in his face and he's going to have to trust where he throws it. His guy's going to be there and make the play. And to me, if there is a guy that can do that, it's Courtland Sutton. Maybe Greg Dulcich can become that guy for you, that true great number, that third down guy. But right now, I think it should be Courtland Sutton. He just got paid. Comment said, he got paid. Now he's got to go live up to it. And he did early on. Last few weeks, obviously, that big drop off. Now he's got to, maybe that week away, like you said, clears his head, gets back into what he was before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's definitely something to consider there. And you talked about Sutton having to have a big game this week. To me, I think that this is more of a Jerry Jeudy game just because of how much the Titans play man coverage. Now, maybe they're going to change that a lot with Russell Wilson. I think Vrabel is pretty flexible with what he can do out there week to week, but the Titans so far this season have played, oh my gosh, wrong year there. Oh, actually, they're playing a lot of cover 4. Okay, now that I look at the different year, playing a lot of cover 4, still a good amount of cover 1, but a lot of cover 4 out there, almost no cover 6, a little bit of cover 2. So they are playing actually a good bit of cover 4. I thought when I was looking at it there, looked like man coverage heavy. So definitely possible. Hopefully the Broncos can get these wide receivers in the right spot and call the right plays based on what the coverage tendencies are. But it's going to be tough. So Scott or Carl, before we wrap this
up. I've been called worse.
Before we wrap this up, I need your final prediction on the game and key matchups, anything like that, because again, it's Tuesday, but we've had a lot of time to think about this game coming up here and won't see you again until next Tuesday.
Yeah, I hate saying this. I'm usually the optimist, but I'm going to say Broncos lose this one 24-21. I do think the Titans come out on top. Just the idea of if Bradley Chubb was in this game, I'd maybe reverse those. Just again, that run defense, what he can bring to the table, being that bigger edge guy for the Broncos that can hold down the fort, and you can maybe kind of rotate some other guys to help out on the other edge. Maybe that is one of those matchups because it sounds like Browning's going to be back for this game. And maybe that's that key matchup, Browning against the offensive line, his ability to hold up, not so much in the pass game, but in the run game. Mm-hmm. Can he be that new anchor for the Broncos? Because he's a little bit on the bigger side if we're talking what we have left at the edge position. I think he's 250, 255, something like that. And the other guys are around that 240, 245 area. And I think he does a pretty good job of anchoring. Yeah. I think he's learning how to do it better. I mean, he's not perfect by any means. And there's a couple times he gets caught jumping inside. But like I said, if he can have a great game, holding his edge, really kind of forcing things back towards the middle, you've got Josie Jewell back. He is incredible against the run. Of course, I'm trying to think. Well, you got Jones, DJ Jones he's a one-man wrecking crew against the run as well. Like I said, all those guys, that front line, if they can have themselves a game, I really think the Broncos stand a great chance. But if they're getting any kind of pushback, if you're putting some of those edge guys out there and they're running right at them of some of those smaller guys, man, it could be a long day for the Broncos where they're giving up that 8 yards on first down. And you're kind of like, okay, well, now we're screwed for second and third down. They can call anything and it can go crazy. You got to win on first down for this one, for the Broncos on both sides of the ball. I mean, you said earlier, the Broncos are one of the worst first down teams. I know we talk about third down a lot, but really first down makes such a difference. And the Broncos just have not been getting anything positive when it comes to that down. So, and yeah, it kind of depends who is starting at quarterback is the other question for the Titans.
Yeah, I really hope Chad lets us put in our predictions based on that announcement, but who knows? Made me look a little smarter than I did because I had the Colts winning the game, and then they announced Jonathan Taylor out. I'm like, oh, let me switch my pick. Nope, it's already in. But Broncos end up losing still, unfortunately. Yeah. Garth Knight coming in saying, Scott, Nick, Carl, y'all do wonderful work. I appreciate these streams. Well, we appreciate you coming in, Garth, and supporting us. So Todd saying 18-15 Titans. Paul saying 12-9 Titans and a shootout coffee bowl. Yeah, I think it's gonna be low scoring. You said what, 24-21? 21 points against this Titans team would be, honestly, that would suck, but it's like, hey, we're moving the ball, and that at least sounds like an exciting game, not 10-9. Yeah. And Andrew Lampy, always exciting when he comes in with the Stars. We appreciate you, Andrew, so much. And looking at this Broncos team right now, you talk about the Broncos on first down. I love to do this. This is my favorite thing. I get it from my dad. I know something and you don't. We're going to play the game. Guess where it is? Broncos first down EPA per play this season on offense. Where do you think the Broncos offense ranks in first down EPA?
30th?
25th. 25th. Okay. So not bad. Pass EPA first down?
28th?
22.
Okay.
Rush EPA first down?
30th?
Dead last by a lot. By a lot. So rushing on first down has not been great for the Broncos. That run pass offense is not great. But got to figure out ways to do it. Got to figure out a way to run the ball and get it going against the Titans here this week. And if it's not working, figure out a way to how to protect Russell Wilson and work the quick pass game, which has not been something you see too often from him. But what can you do? Carl, I think that's going to have to do it for us. It's 6:01 my time, and my tummy's starting to get a little rumbles. So I think I got to go get on the dinner train. What are your plans the rest of the night? Taking care of the sick kids, or how are things going there?
No, thankfully the wife has them for the rest of the night.
Okay.
I might go get my run in.
Okay.
I've got to get a little work done because I've been at the house for 2 days and haven't been in the office working at all. So I might actually have to do my job tonight. Kind of weird. I know. Boo. Have to work. So that's kind of my schedule right now. And then try to hopefully get a little bit of sleep, and hopefully all kids are at school tomorrow and continue on the week. And like I said, have a great weekend watching some good football. Maybe an Iowa victory.
They're wearing their Patriot uniforms with the logo and whatnot being the American flag. So that'll be sick. Wisconsin healing or a thorn in our butt for many, many years. So hopefully we can take them out. But I appreciate you guys so much for joining us today. Appreciate Carl coming in on these Tuesday shows. Make sure you're following us both. Carl is on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also make sure you're following us at BTB Football Pod and of course at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you're joining our Facebook communities at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. And of course, subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube, where some of the Facebook links have been some issues lately, but YouTube, steady, streaming, great. So if you guys have any issues with us on Facebook, make sure you're joining us and subscribing over on YouTube. Make sure you guys have a great rest of your night. Continue to choose compassion and kindness. Go Broncos.